meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Neil, would you lead us?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So tonight we have more budget discussion. This was third meeting, fourth meeting? I don't know. So it's been at least like 16 hours of discussion. So there are a few issues that we still have to take a look at, but I'm asked to go through it page by page. Is this like, a practice for the hearing or what?
It's in case the board, just to start like at the beginning, and if the board has any questions or
Okay.
any further, until you get to the people that you actually wanted to talk to.
Sure.
So, can I start? Can I say
please.
something?
Yep.
Okay. So I put a copy of the last page of the budget, the MS6 appropriations and revenues from the town report, and I also put appropriations and revenues that we went to the tax rate setting with. So the blue sheet from the town report is what we normally use to calculate what the tax impact is going to be between what it was and what it is that's being asked for today. So this is what we went to town meeting with. And in calculating the difference between what we went to town meeting with and what requests are for the upcoming budget, we're at a 49% increase to the tax rate for municipal portion. After comparing,
Cent. Yes, cent.
49 cents, what did I say?
Percent.
Okay, 49%, yeah, we're up now. 49 cents. So after comparing what we went to the tax rate setting which is the second sheet, we noticed that the revenues that we went to the tax rate setting with, the total amount was different than the one that was on the blue sheet. So if we go by we went to tax rate setting with, it looks like a $2.27 increase to the tax rate. And like I said, we normally use what's on the blue sheet, what we went to town meeting with. That's the sheet that we normally compare with the proposed budget.
What makes it such a big difference?
I don't know if it's the revenues, I believe. Yeah, we got in more revenues last year than predicted. Correct me if I'm wrong. So we got in more revenues, which made the net required local tax effect less. So the local, I can't even speak. The local net tax effect was $5.9 million, almost $6 million. The estimated amount that was taken to town meeting was $7 million. So that's like a $1 million difference. So right there, you got $2 on the tax rate, $2 difference.
I don't quite get that. So we got more revenue. We got
more revenue,
yeah, and
which means that the estimated taxes to be raised were less than the proposed.
Okay.
So I guess now we're making up for it. If we're looking at what we went to the tax rate setting with.
Raise more revenue, but it's going to cost us more.
Right, we also, if I recall, we did some of this. So we added $735,000 from the fund balance.
Right.
And part of that was because the school tax rate was going up substantially. So we used that money from the fund balance to sort of offset, in addition to the revenues being up, we also used the fund balance to offset some of the increases from the school, setting the tax rate.
Yeah, it's an overall accounting thing. It includes town and school, so, yes. just want you to be aware. Because the blue sheet says 49 cents, but the one that we went to the tax rate setting with says $2.27.
So does the $2.27 include what the school is doing?
No,
So this,
this is just the municipal
so
portion.
we're really talking about it rising. What was the school one gonna cost?
It was $2 the last year. We don't know what it's gonna be this next year.
So we could be talking about if they're $4 and something cents per thousand.
And I can also tell you that between the amount that was proposed, the original request from all departments, we started out with a budget that was $1.9 million more than the request from the one that we're in right now. And out of the 1.9 million, 1.4 million was capital reserve requests. And working with the department heads, we were able to, take care of some of that. We got rid of the capital reserves for the most part to try to help keep our municipal rate down.
Which means we're still dealing with a lot of expense.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know what we can do because this infrastructure around town, everything's been suffering for so long now. I don't know what you want to do.
Well, there's still like unanticipated revenue from funds that are still be coming down for infrastructure.
Right, right. So we probably can make up quite a bit of it. I think that we are looking at some pretty good revenue coming down, but I'm just telling you what it looks like right now.
So when we look at the effect on the tax rate of the budget that's proposed here, we really should be basing it off of this, not off of this.
I think that second one, that one, the tax rate setting gives you a better picture.
Mhm.
We always went by this one.
Well, assuming that we can't really go up another 250 or whatever it's gonna be, or how can we get, do you have any ideas? You said you had no ideas, but there must be some ideas of how we might be, not kinda like, and we don't even know what the school rate's gonna be coming in at, so.
And now I was looking at, see, if we take the fire truck from a 3-year lease down to a 5-year lease, that's like $100,000 difference. And I hate to say it, but if we don't allow the additional fire department guy or the part-time recycling, the total of those 3 items is $207,000,
So about 50 cents.
about 50 cents. It's pretty tight right now. We also have $200,000 going into capital reserves for the infrastructure grant match. So that's another couple of hundred if you wanted to take that out. That's almost $1 right there between those 4 items.
So are we spending substantially more than last year? Or is this a revenue thing exclusively? Aside from the $86,000 for there being a 53rd week.
I can't answer.
It looks like the appropriation's the same, right? Because if you look at the MS 636 that's in front of us, total appropriation, $10,721,644. And then if you look at the first line of the white sheet, appropriations and revenues, same number, $10,721,644.
Right.
So we're talking about the same appropriated amount, right?
the appropriations that you're seeing on the blue sheet
Mm-hmm.
should match what you're seeing on the white sheet, because that's the same year. Those
Right.
are both
And they-
2021.
And similarly, they match on the last sheet, the budget number that we're seeing an increase over.
Right, but that.
Go ahead.
Okay. So on the last sheet of your budgets, you can just go there for a minute. I'm just gonna try to simplify it a little bit. You'll see in the very middle, you've got 2021, 2022 MS2, and you've got 2022, 23 MS2. Do you see where I am there? In the
No.
middle, in the last page
Middle of the last page. of
Okay, yeah.
of the budget.
This page?
Yep. You can see budget revenues.
Yes, MS2,
Okay.
MS2, yep.
So that 10,721 is actually the amount that we approved at town meeting,
Yep, that's the number that's here.
right?
And it's also the number we used to set the tax rate here.
That's a good thing. But your revenues,
The revenues were the same on the blue sheet as they are on the last page of the budget. but-
Correct, because the revenues are up.
Right.
your revenue actually should be there, should be actual number, not predicted number. So your actual revenue should be 4,846,105, which
Yep.
brought down the amount to be raised in taxes to 5.9 million instead of 7 million.
Yep,
The difference between the 5.9 and what is being proposed on this year's budget, as you go down through the second column there, the MS2 numbers,
yep.
is $1,248,748, which is a difference in the tax rate of $2.51.
I've got a different number here.
Right, but to Ted's original question, are we spending a lot more?
You're spending almost 900,000 more, from 10.7 to 11.5.
And in the meantime, also cut our capital reserves, so it's kind of a double whammy. We're spending more and we're not saving any money.
Right.
Right.
How much was the capital, roughly, what was the capital reserve amount we cut from that?
It was originally 1.3.
1.4 million.
1.4, yep,
It was originally 1.4 and it ended up being
205.
205. So we cut, 1.2 million out of that. Our budget's still going up.
1.2.
No. Well, how does that make sense?
Because you originally asked for 13.4 million.
Right. No, I get you. Right. We also used that fund balance. I was trying to think, how did our revenues go down? Well, they didn't. We had 4.8 million of offset last time because of the fund balance plus the revenues.
Correct.
Whereas our revenues will only be 4.2, almost 3, 4.3.
So by using those numbers as they were proposed in the past, has always boggled our mind as to why the tax rate never came out to what we predicted. You can see why now, because this says that really, if everything stayed the same, it would have only been 49 cents. You're looking at about, it's at 227. something like that.
How much of that increase is primarily due to, the contract and insurance?
Gave you that number, right? I figured that out. I thought I gave it to Kathy.
Insurance?
Yep, the insurance and the overall increase for the 53rd week.
Oh, okay.
53rd week was, it was like $86,000.
It's more like 104.
Got this right here.
Yep. Right, so the additional 1 week of payroll, I'm sorry, it's 101,978, and that includes, FICA, your payroll for your employees, your union employees,
What was it again, 100 and?
102.
101,978.
102, yeah.
102, yep. Your union negotiations. So for the 22-23 year, for union, police department, 44,553. Fire department, 127,047. That does not include the additional personnel for the fire department. 23-24, those numbers don't matter this year in the budget, but 54,810 for police, 145,194 for fire. 24-25, 88,323 for police, 166,198 for fire.
So this year, about 50 cents is due to.
35, yep, 35 cents is due to the union.
Well, no, I was gonna add in the 53rd week.
Oh, okay.
So between all three of those things, those are 50 cents.
Yep.
Approximately.
It doesn't seem like a lot.
A lot more than what it's been in the past.
Yeah.
And probably when you add in the additional costs due to the other raises in town,
Yeah, I guess that's, was kind of hoping for too. Like, overall, like, what's going to be the increase?
I don't have that bill.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm gonna guess that it's probably close to the same. So probably $1 of it,
All right, yeah.
just based on recollection.
Well, now. So I'm thinking it's safe to say that we can't do that. We can't go up another 250 or 227 or whatever. How best to,
Kathy just gave you some suggestions.
okay,
You want to go through each
Yeah, let's go through
budget?
each.
all right.
See if
let's-
there's anything else that you'd recommend, or she'd recommend?
So we're doing the page by page, or just do it by Kathy? You want to just take it away?
Say,
Go for it with your suggestions and,
well, the only suggestions I had were the four that I mentioned, which is changing the lease from a 3-year to a 5-year, and unfortunately not hiring additional help for fire or recycling right now. And I guess we have to take the 200,000 out of the Highland Street infrastructure grant match.
If we did all of those, just refresh my memory, what was the total?
It was like 50 cents on the tax rate. So that would bring it down to $1.77.
what else? I mean, it's kind of like flippant just to say, but that's even, $1.77 seems,
Do we have anything that we could, do we have any positions that we could technically do without in the town hall?
Say that again.
Do we have any positions that we could do without within the town hall?
I don't believe so. I mean, we have 2 part-timers. We changed from full-timers down to 2 part-timers to make up, for some of that last year. I think that everybody that we have working there is a necessary factor in what we're doing, trying to do.
Are there any services that we're providing that we no longer need to provide?
Not in the town hall.
Anywhere.
I think,
Looking for efficiencies here, what can we do differently that we haven't done in the past?
When it comes time to set the tax rate, what do we think our fund balance is gonna look like?
Right now you have about 600,000 in there. It's how we end this year.
Right?
I can't tell you what that is, I'm sorry.
How's it feeling, just sort of, I know this is purely conjecture. Do we feel like we're ahead, we're behind?
On target?
I think we were on target when we discussed this. Let me see where we're at right now.
I just, one of the things that, as we think about tax rate, that we're trying to overcome is that $735,000 that we took out of the fund balance, right? You're not gonna cut services enough to cover that, savings that we did previously.
what was that, Ann?
I know.
Oh, that's revenues. I don't have the budget. Do you have the budget up here?
One of the things that you're trying not to do, or Kathy's trying not to do this year, is to tell department heads that they can't spend their budget.
Yep.
That is truly the only way to build that fund balance. So unless the board wants to put a freeze on the budgets in March, or Kathy puts a freeze on the budget in March, I wouldn't say your fund balance is gonna be built too high.
Okay, well, then the question is there anything that we can spend this year that we don't have to spend next year? Can we avoid spending next year by spending this year?
I don't know what we have in the budget left right now. I don't have a copy of that with me.
You would have to, you got department heads right here, I guess you could ask them. That would be thinking about what they haven't purchased yet. Do they really need it? Can it wait another 2 years, because that's what you're looking at now.
Okay, well, maybe we just ask the question. Is there something that we can buy this year that we don't have to, so we don't have to buy it next year? Out of what you have already, or are we pretty much straight on where we're at?
We had looked at, I thought we talked about this in the process, we did cut, well, we cut about 70 grand from our request, and about 10 times that in capital requests. But one of the things was a portable pump, that was cut out of next year's budget, which was only $6,000, but I can't think of anything else. And if we have items in the budget, they're there because we need them, and many of them have already been kicked down the road to this point.
say for the PD, I mean, there's really nothing, we sat down with Kathy and Andy, we cut a bunch of stuff out of the budget for next year, and we were asked to, you be able to purchase some things, just supplies this year, so we don't have to buy them next year, we made all the cuts for next year, so it'll be very difficult for now to even cut this year.
Who do we have on the?
Yeah, I was trying to look. I don't think we have Joe.
Jesse's on there.
Jesse's on there. I don't see Joe. I
don't
was
see
wondering
Joe.
if Joe could wait for his backhoe loader and his dump truck, maybe.
Those are, you're taking money out of capital reserve for those. They already have offsets.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, you saved like, what was it, 10
It
grand or
is.
something like that, or 20 grand? It was kind of
Yeah,
small.
you're not.
Right,
But
right, yeah.
that
we're
is a
not-
good amount,
We're
though.
not saving that.
20,000, 30,000.
Well, in order to make any kind of difference,
Yeah.
we need hundreds of thousands, not.
I agree.
And so unless we cut a whole bunch of small things, we're not gonna achieve the economies that we're talking about.
June is on. I didn't hear a scream when we said we're gonna cut the 200 grand, but.
Said that too fast.
I think that that was a number that we had in there to just have some funding to work with. It's not targeted for any specific things at this time because we're still waiting for some information from the road surface management inventory, culvert assessment, some aspects from, what are our priorities for larger infrastructure projects. I think that, you can put that off a couple of years or, in one more year, but just keep in mind that to especially help fund infrastructure, typically federal agencies want to see, anywhere from 20 to even 50% match or somewhere in between there. So not having something to work with means it could potentially jeopardize the ability to get grants. We can still probably do low cost loans from rural development. Again, it's just, we don't really have a good list of priorities that I've seen. If we do a capital improvement plan, maybe that's a better place to focus for this next year. And then a year from now, we'll have better sense of maybe some priorities and where to put that money.
True. And actually, I spoke with Dave Jeffers on a different project, and he indicated that it's going to be a little while before he comes up with the plan because I guess it's kind of expensive. They wanted to rework the numbers and just make it a little bit softened or something. But anyway, that's going to be a while, I think, before we get the plan out of him, the Lakes region. Okay. See, Diane's on. We can. I don't think the budget for the library is.
It's gonna make any difference.
Yeah. Dan, you can save us if you'd like.
You have a huge revenue stream coming in that we don't know about?
Book fines. And,
Yes, we're collecting all of our quarters and nickels over there.
Good.
Bring them all in for you.
Maybe you're gonna
I will say that we've been aggressively pursuing grants for materials and technology, and we've been pretty successful. So, excuse me, the lines that we have to maintain that are pretty important. So, and Kathy and Ann have gotten our bond down pretty low. So I know that a lot of folks are waiting for that bond to get paid off, so it'll be their turn, but it's down pretty low right now. So just a couple more years before that is paid off. So I'm sorry for the folks waiting behind us in line.
All right. Well, thank you.
Diane, would there be any way that the library could assist in making the payment on that bond from the trustees? No? No, okay.
mean, I don't know, what was the other board members?
We have any land we could sell?
I'm sure the university would like to buy it, whatever it is.
We have this nice
Should
town.
set a policy to not sell any land to nonprofits.
Actually, there was, who was, I guess, well, somebody, I guess, who shall not be named, said that we should pick up the old bank and let the university take over the town hall. I'm thinking, okay, well, there goes history. But they'd maintain it, though, in a proper fashion, I'm sure, so.
No.
So we can, I hate to say it, but we can think about no more free dental for department heads and possibly increasing the health insurance, our payment out of pocket from 15% to 20% for the non-union employees. I don't know what that total would be.
I don't know either.
It sounds smallish, yeah.
I know it does.
Yeah,
It's just
You need
just a
something-
thought. I know, substantial.
Yeah, I mean, $50,000 is still 10 cents.
yeah. I don't know how much that really would be when you add it all up.
If you're willing to have another meeting later this week, I will have what you want for numbers, but
Let's give it a little thought.
I'm tempted, well, I mean, I'd be willing to have like a free discussion, just like to kick things around.
you
And-
can't do that without a board meeting.
Yeah,
The other thing is your pilots. Your pilots are coming up, like, PSU's pilot is coming up.
Oh,
You may
man.
want to consider that.
should not have mentioned that, but,
Well, you
okay,
have-
there's that, and,
you've also got Midstate, that at some point,
sorry.
you guys are going to discuss with them, their pilot, that they don't have one at all. Kathy just renegotiated Spears, or the board did, I'm not sure which, but.
when they picked up the other two buildings? Or-
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So that was another
That was like a
50,000?
year ago, right? Something
That's a total of 50 between the two.
Okay. Well, that was another 25 then.
Yeah.
But was that a 1 year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think the pilot's gonna be like really productive.
I'm thinking revenue
Mhm.
to help
Yeah.
offset some of the expense.
If we had a strategic place where we can negotiate from, that might be helpful, but, you know, like Midstate can still tell us to pound sand, you know, the hospital's been good enough. I mean, I don't think,
Mhm.
but, and the university's talking, well, we haven't had that discussion yet, but they used to want to reduce that.
At
nothing.
one point you talked about taking your nonprofits down to 0. I mean, that's 68,000. I know that's a sore subject, but, and it's,
Well, I think that's maybe what the town of Bristol did. I'm not certain, but, you know, since we have a nonprofit that we approached them and we heard that they were zeroing us out, like that might not be, I'm thinking it's a bad direction, but it's one that's, I feel is probably kind of common now. Multiple towns are looking at just getting rid of the nonprofits. No, it's getting warm in here.
yeah, we
It's
drank,
like-
we drank the
like a
heat. I
cold
know
wind
the
that
heat
blows
feels
through
good,
here,
doesn't it?
Huh. So regardless, we still have some department heads here that, and I know that, you know, Tom, you want to make an ask for your position, and,
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, I think we've made the case that we are at the breaking point in terms of emergency calls versus the number of personnel available to personnel on duty. And I've said it before, without that additional person, we will be looking at cutting those contract towns, which is a source of revenue.
So do those contract, they're a source of revenue, but do they overcome the expense of actually supporting them? Are we at a break even? And if we're not at a break even, I wanna know how much we're not at a break even by.
Sorry. Like I said in that cover letter, when you look at the billables, yes. When you look at what we're not allowed to bill by law, or balance bill, i.e. the 50% of our patients that are on Medicare, we can't balance bill them. In those cases, no, you're never gonna get to break even.
So,
But in fiscal year '21, we, from those 4 contract towns, we netted over $300,000 between receivables and the contracts themselves, which are going up every year, as I noted.
It's in the back.
so we netted, so that means a net profit.
Yes.
So they're more than breaking even when we consider,
What we're allowed to bill by law.
so it's,
In my weekly report, I had submitted the payer mix this morning. I don't know if you saw that.
Didn't get
saw that
that.
I got it, I didn't have a chance to read it.
It's bleak, and it's not just here, it's nationwide, that, 50% of our patients are on Medicare. We get about 30 cents on a dollar from Medicare. And it's against a lot of balanced bill now. You wanna pass that around, Kathy? That's our payer mix by group. The second largest group is the commercial carriers, about 25% of our patients. They're cutting our bills in half. It's called repricing, and you don't have any recourse. There's a group with no insurance. We collect almost nothing from them. That's I think in the 6% range. And that's pretty standard nationwide.
You said this is about roughly 300,000?
Yes,
That includes
the contracts.
The contract.
ambulance contracts plus the charges for transport.
What we actually took in.
Yeah. And so when you take the contracts plus what we took in, and we compare that against the costs, we're still 300 ahead.
When you just look at the billables. When you just look at the billable calls. Like I said in that cover letter, if you're gonna consider the non-transports, for instance, where we might not even get out the door and get canceled, we can't bill for that.
Mm-hmm.
So in those cases, no, we're not in the black.
That's a total revenue of 300,000 against your, and I understand this includes both fire and, but your total is or your ask is 1.8.
Right, that's net. And also understand that money from FY '21 is still coming in, which is sad but true, i.e. with collections. They work those cases for quite some time.
Yep.
And they do bear fruit.
But in the end, considering all of our costs supporting those towns, we are still ahead of the game.
When we look at the billable, the calls that we're allowed to bill, yes. If we include all the calls, like I said in that cover letter, the ones where we go and treat, what we call treat and release, we can't bill for that.
Oh, we're still going there.
You have to.
But that is a cost upon the town of Plymouth if we're sending somebody somewhere else. So when we factor that in, even though we can't bill for it, it comes off that $300,000. So when we take all of those off the $300,000, because those are expenses that we're incurring,
Right.
are we still 300 ahead?
No. No, you're not in the black if you look at.
So it is a net loss at this point in time, that contract for those other towns, for us, the taxpayers of Plymouth.
My point to that is, if you look at, let's say we cut all those contract towns, we are minimally staffed now. And we added a shift in 1990 because we broke 1,000 calls. We're doing 1,000 calls now in Plymouth. So you could cut all those contract towns, we're not gonna have a considerable amount of cut in expenses. Maybe some fuel, maybe some overtime, but the fixed costs are what they are, just, if you were just gonna take care of Plymouth.
Just because of the scale of our town.
But you're gonna lose that 300,000, that's my point.
And that's what I'm seeking to understand. And so most of the calls that are in Plymouth, I'm presuming, are EMT type calls.
It's pretty standard across the board that we do 2/3 EMS, day to day. We do 9 calls today, 6 of them are likely to be EMS.
We have the advisory budget committee here. Do they have any recommendations?
Well, one is shaking his head no.
No recommendation.
Our conversations with the town manager were long-term, they're not gonna help you this year. They were looking at the future.
Can our budget person and our town manager weigh in on that? Or, excuse me, our,
I didn't meet with the ABC, if that's what your question is.
no, the specific ask for Tom and, you know, weighing the lost revenue to perhaps putting the position in and,
You have some tough choices to make. I think is it worth continuing in an ambulance service for the town of Plymouth to have a private ambulance service, as we are? I can't answer that question, I don't know. The value is worth it, but is the expense that you're taking on, is it better to outsource it? I don't know.
We may not be able to answer that this year anyway.
Nope. Yeah, you're getting,
So here's a question. You know, I just wanted to throw the question out there. Would you be okay with a 1-year term position?
1-year term, so.
In other words, pending renewal, so it's not something that's permanently in the budget to give, you know, because, you know, for all we know, these numbers could drop next year, I don't know.
Right, we look at it every 12 months. I mean, like, the way that we're moving, it's going to be improved as it has for the last 3 years. And as it should have been, the contract prices, they were getting a pretty good deal, and they know that. I think it'd be difficult, to answer your question, Ted, it'd be difficult to hire somebody with that in mind. You're basically here on a grant, if you will, for 12 months. Is that what you're?
Well, not a grant, but, you know, it's a 1-year term position, subject to renewal.
so temporary.
yeah.
You know,
Full-time.
you know, I'm just wanting to throw it out there to see if there's receptiveness to the option to give us some breathing room to determine what the best long-term solution is.
Are you considering, it sounds to me like you're considering down the road getting out of that business.
I'm not saying yay or nay to that, I'm just, I hate to commit the town to a very long-term, positions are long-term, And it's traditionally very hard to reduce the number of positions once they're in the budget. But if it's a temporary position, it at least gives us the flexibility to think about it over the next year.
I would certainly take that over nothing. One thing I would say about when you talk about bringing in a private service is that, and no offense to them, but we still need to bring the patient to them. They're not gonna do rescue from pipes, rescue from below grade, water, crashes. You know, we're still gonna have to do all those rescue type things and bring the patient to that transport agency. Number one. Number two, they're typically not invested in the community as we are. Right now, Plymouth has an advantage in that, you know, we're staffed with cross-trained personnel around the clock. And the community, our community benefits from that in more than just emergency ways. I mean, we help people all day long, every day, in non-emergent situations, as does the police department.
And I'll attest to that. They did help me today. Thank you very much. So,
So, what, would one position cut it, or a shift? Like, I mean,
Say that again,
one position, you know, solve what you're looking to
That's a
solve?
start. I mean, when we've been writing the grants, which pay everything for 3 years, for adding 1 to 2 per shift. You know, we're not even meeting the NFPA standard, for instance, when we have 2 people responding to a building fire on an engine. That's not safe. Or even an ambulance call, for that matter. There's times when we have to abandon the patient, which is against the law, because we've only got 2 on the ambulance. So, yeah, that was a stopgap, because as we showed in that graph, the activity is such during the day that this was going to be a daytime person to relieve that, at least. To relieve that daytime call volume, which has been pretty consistent over the years. And also the period when we had almost no call people available, because they're out of town or they're working.
If I may, Matt.
Yes.
I just ran some numbers I pulled out of our system. Again, sorry, my name is Kevin Pierce, for those who don't remember me. We have 20 call staff, so 20 volunteers / call guys on the department that are available to respond to assist the full-timers. Out of that 20 call staff, we have 7 that have responded less than 10 times the entire year, January to December. Out of the 10, out of that 20, we have 10 that have responded more than 20 times, or 10 times, I should say. And of those, it's because 6 of them cover shifts and we're not able to fill them. So we're down to very low numbers for community members assisting the fire department. It's actually the lowest I've seen. And that's a huge concern for us. I've got about halfway through a risk assessment for the town of Plymouth, and I got a lot of that education through college for doing that on the fire prevention side. And our biggest asset right now is Tenny Mountain Highway, which is also my biggest concern, because that is essentially the industrial section of town. That's where we're going to have all the major businesses. Market Basket come in, and we've already seen a tremendous traffic flow increase, as I'm sure all of you have being residents. That's only going to get bigger, and that's good for the town. We want that. We want the business. But on the public safety side of it, says we can't help that much call volume. You're going to have increased accidents, increased requests for emergency services. We can't assist that with our proper staff or our present staff, and we need additional staffing to meet these needs, along with to maintain our ISO numbers at a lower rate so our homeowners insurance stays lower. We're at a breaking point. We truly are. And of that crew, those staff I mentioned earlier, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I get 6 right now that I'm actively trying to track down to say, why haven't you been here in a year? Why haven't we not seen your faces? Of those 20, there's 6 of them that are unaccounted for. They're just not responding to calls. I did make contact with a few of them, the same things that they all say. Family things, you know, family, job requirements, society issues. They're just unavailable to help their community, and I get that. We can't hold them
So
accountable.
do we issue those people who are not available radios?
If they're qualified to fight fire, they're issued radios.
So if they're not responding and we're issuing a radio, then we should pull that back.
Here's the issue: we don't have radios to give them.
Okay. I
They're
just said
borrowing
yes.
radios right now from each other.
And what that does, I'm sorry.
I'm just, my point exactly is we have, my concern from the mental health side of this is we have an issue with burnout with our personnel. We have several that are actually considering going to other departments because they're so busy here and they don't have any relief in sight. We're calling them back mandatory to cover shifts. Mandatory. They actually just had to leave their family events to come back and work to cover time employment because they didn't have a choice. We didn't have any options.
which is also expensive, as we know, because it's 24 hours of overtime every time that happens.
If we want to cut overtime, we need to hire more personnel and reduce overtime staff. And that'll be a cost savings effect, but again, it's more insurance, more benefits. I get that. It's a catch-22, and really at this point, it's a good problem for the town of Plymouth that we're very busy and we don't have enough resources, but it's a bad thing because it requires a significant investment on the town. And our biggest asset for this town is the employees.
Can I ask a question? Do either of you go out on calls when needed?
Yes, I do. I am a paramedic, I am still active, I still respond out.
A lot of days, we're in during the day. I mean, we got a building fire, you were out.
Oh, in Ashland,
Billy
yeah.
Valley in Florida last week, but we had a building fire on Thursday or Friday at 4 o'clock. There were 2 personnel that came in off duty. Homestead and McGlone, which thank God. They still respond to calls. Although, you know, how long is that gonna go on?
Recently, sorry,
That's fine.
Romney, right over the town border, had a building fire at the Pottery Place. I don't know if you guys heard about it. Plymouth could not provide them with an engine because we had nobody available to come in to respond to that. You know, and they're always giving us personnel when we request help. So, I mean, these are staffing issues and a legitimate concern. My biggest concern is protecting the town of Plymouth first and foremost. We're getting to the point where we're not able to because we're so busy. I just want to make you aware of that, not use scare tactics, but these are true numbers right here. And I'm a big believer in statistics, so just want to make you aware of that. This is why we're asking for more help, because we truly are at the point where we're unable to do the duties.
Was this position in the budget currently? Yeah, okay.
Yes, as written.
Yep. So,
So at one point you did ask, you had mentioned that Tommy would possibly make it a separate warrant article for this
Right.
additional guy.
that's true, yep.
Yeah.
Did you respond to Ted's 1-year temporary position?
Yeah, he did respond to that. He said if
Yeah.
it meant that or nothing, he would
Yeah, that's true.
essentially do
Yep.
it.
Geez. You know, I would think, you know, the board, I don't know, the board can weigh in on it, but I'm thinking I'd be more sympathetic with that, knowing that there's major issues, or, you know, you've got like a revenue issue and also a staffing issue. And this isn't gonna quite solve it, but, there's a lot of areas that, you know, probably we have to reduce in some, you know, in some manner. I don't know, any other comments on that, or?
I think it's tough to recruit a position
Yeah,
capacity.
it's, yeah, well, I know the state does it an awful lot. I don't know if the university does it as well. You know, just have a temporary position and hope that they find, but unfortunately too, I guess, staff, fire staff are hard to recruit, period.
You also, the secondary issues would typically invest quite a bit in that staff member in terms of training.
Yep.
If you're sitting in a temporary position, you're probably gonna spend that whole year training as much as you can and trying to find your next job.
Yeah.
That's a good point, yeah. I mean, it's hard enough finding somebody that wants to work that schedule too, you know, they like the 24 on, 72 off.
Should we table that one, or you want to make a decision on it, or what?
Well, next week is your public hearing, so
Yeah.
I do think, and I feel differently looking at $2.50 versus 50 cents. I do think we should do it as a separate warrant article item. That would be my recommendation. Not, I would like to see it pass at the same time, rather than having the town level fund us, giving them an outlet on some other items. If they really feel like they need to push the tax rate in town meeting. I mean, I would still recommend it as a warrant article, but
You know, then they're making the choice.
yeah.
Is that, Neil? Do you support that, or?
I don't have anything to offer right now.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about those traveling nurses that get $10,000 a week.
mm,
You know, if you try to hire somebody, you know, like on a contract basis, that seems to be where the market is.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that in terms of fire EMTs,
so.
Well, it's temporary. You're going to be talking to a temporary agency.
After this, doesn't it?
I've never heard of one existing in the fire service.
I was pretty sure I wasn't
No.
gonna hear of one of those either.
That's what's running through my head, though, you know. I think the voters need to decide on this. They, you know, we can't make all the decisions. They gotta make some of the decisions.
Well, I mean, we could decide not to support it. Like, our decision at this point is, do we support it at all? Do we put it in the general budget? Or do we put it on the warrant? My personal vote of those three options would be to put it on the warrant.
I can get behind that.
All right, and I think Neil is kind of looking to be in that too. So I would agree with that, so it's majority, and put it on the warrant.
We put on the warrant with your support.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah,
We'll say that we support it.
we don't, you know.
Technically, we learned that we can't put anything on the warrant. We can't put anything on the warrant unless we say we support it.
True.
Okay. So yes, we support it.
All right, well, that's hardly anything, but at least it's going to be before the war.
It's a decision, and you've made it.
You know?
Now we can,
We don't have to necessarily, we don't have to
Past
necessarily
one
like
thing,
it.
right? We moved past one thing.
right,
Yep.
it's a
Are
decision.
you gonna term that as a test, or?
No, if they're voting on it,
Position.
then they're voting on
Thank you.
it. It's all or nothing.
All right. What else? We got Jesse.
Jesse. Is he there?
He is,
Okay, I can't see that far without my
the
glasses.
third one from the bottom. Now he's,
Hey, Jesse.
still doesn't sound.
Did the board receive my cover letter and tonnage spreadsheet?
Yep. Yes.
So as you can see, looking at the tonnage spreadsheet, so we went up quite significantly from FY17 to now, which is approximately 256 tons, which was a 16.5% increase in those 5 years. Also, that being said, the town is growing. You know, and with the town growing, it's safe to say that more trash is being produced. And so more services are having to be provided to the town. For example, I'm sending out a two-man crew out to Main Street and the Common to pick up trash nearly every day from early May into late October. That equates to about 378 hours of just picking up trash from the Common and from Main Street. Which in years past, that was only twice a week, which was on Wednesdays and Sundays. So it is definitely ramped up quite a lot. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure, we have had, instances where, we would have to go out, go pick up some trash, on an off day. But now it is every day that we have to go pick up trash. With that, we also collect all the waste in the town except for Park and Rec. We collect scrap metal. We're not only collecting scrap metal, we're sorting out that metal so that way we can yield higher revenues on certain scrap metals. And then, we're disposing of bulk materials, construction debris, shingles, ensuring that electronic waste and tires are being properly stored and being shipped out for recycling. My department's one of the smallest departments, and sometimes it's difficult to have proper staffing when there's illness or vacations. During, if you'll recall, during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, we shut down Thursdays for approximately 3 months. And the townspeople did not like that whatsoever. I had multiple calls on, shutting down one day, which was our slowest day out of the whole week. But people rely on the recycling center being open. And I believe having that additional part-timer could alleviate some of those shutdowns.
So Jesse, you mentioned that you spend time sorting the scrap metal for additional yields.
Yes.
How much of your time is spent sorting? How many hours is spent sorting? What I'm trying to figure out here is, for the additional yield we get for sorting, is it worth spending the time to do it?
I'm looking at it as a revenue point. I do believe that it's worth the time doing it. I don't generate a lot of revenue, so every dollar that I can generate for the town, I think it's worth it. But to answer your question, it's probably maybe 4 or 5 hours a week.
So if you took that 4 or 5 hours a week, you multiplied it by 52, then factor in the personnel costs for those hours, are we yielding revenue in excess of what it actually cost us to sort it?
Honestly, Ted, I don't know.
And this gets to what I was talking about. Is there something that we should stop doing? If it's costing us more money to sort it than we're getting in the revenue addition to sort it, then don't bother. That can be somebody else's, when you sell the scrap, somebody else can sort it.
So, I mean, I would say the town would not want to generate more revenue.
It's not about revenue. If the revenue and the cost, if it costs you more money to do it than it does than you're getting in revenue, then it doesn't make sense to do it, even though it is revenue. Because that revenue has to be offset by the cost. So you take all the costs, add them up, and if it is not exceeding your revenue, then it's not worth doing.
Well, that could be said about nearly everything that we do in the town.
No, but if you can ship that metal out, that scrap metal out, and you don't have to sort it, then why are we sorting it? That's what I'm trying to figure out here. Is it worth sorting it if we don't have to?
I do believe it is.
Do you have a number on how much money you took in from scrap metal last year?
From scrap metal last year, I believe we took in roughly $13,000.
So you took in 13,000.
What would it be worth if it was all mixed together, number one, and light metal and?
So if you mix it all together, you're looking at about 3 cents a pound. So if you add up, let's say, I'm sorry, like so if you added up the scrap metal from last year, times that by 0.03, you get that number. That would be a light iron price. So that would be, no matter what it was, it would have been number one copper, bare bright copper, which is anywhere between $3 to $4 a pound. You know, you could strip out, 10 pounds in an hour, and you're making more money than it would cost you to pay somebody. Now, I mean, that's one example.
Yeah, so, I mean, that scrap metal deal sounds like a great deal. You make $13,000, spend 5 hours a week, $20 an hour, 50 weeks of the year, that's $5,000. You make it
In that case, it shows what
Great
we're
deal.
looking for, yeah.
Yeah. Wise investment of time.
Okay.
Jesse, since 17, have you had any changes in your staffing levels, or have they been the current number of full-time and part-time people you have today?
We had a chart last
So,
spring.
yes, we have. There's just a turnover rate at the recycling center. I mean, we're not hiring the best people to work the best job in the town.
Sure, I know your turnovers, but I just mean the number of allocated positions.
So we've always been out, as far as I took over as manager, there was supposed to be 4 full-timers and 1 part-timer. And I took over in FY 2017.
Okay. And so it's been, to your knowledge, it's been 4 full-time, 1 part-time that whole time?
Yes.
Thank you.
And we're looking at, we're doing more weight. I mean, last year I did ask for a full-time position. It was COVID. And the reason why for that number to be so much lower is we stopped taking in construction debris, shingles. We stopped taking a lot of things. Anything that really had anything to do with weighing anything. We stopped taking it because I was trying to protect my employees from catching COVID. Can you hold on a second first?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I'm actually at one of the barracks in town, and it's got a little loud in the office. But you can see that it just a steady trend of going up in tonnage. I mean, 250 or 245 tons since I took over as manager. And, even if you look at the recycling rates are going up. we're just getting more, but not changing our staff to meet those needs. I suggest to the board not to take away a day from the public, because people rely on the recycling center to be open, and whether it's because they obviously need it, but it's something that they've done for the last 30 years. It's become a habit for people, and I know I got some not so nice calls when I'm trying to do the right thing and protecting my crew from COVID.
What about the idea of reducing the number of hours per day that you're open? So that you have more time to sort?
Well, once again, I think people are not going to be happy about that. People are not, I receive quite a few calls that,
I mean, what we're doing today is not going to make anybody happy, right? We're talking about increasing taxes and, trying to raise more revenue versus having less hours to dump.
I understand that.
There's no answer that's going to make everybody happy.
Right. No, I definitely understand that. The select board is in a very hard position. But one thing that I can say is that nearly everybody uses the town, or uses the recycling center. Not everybody uses the other departments.
And so one of the things I would love to see, Jesse, is some kind of data that says when people come into the recycling center, just so that we can right-size our hours. But as I understand it today, data like that does not exist.
No, I guess the only good, it's not even a good source of information, but you can look at Google and see what the busiest time is because of everybody's phones that are over there.
True.
We did try to get a traffic counter.
Yeah.
Police department had one, but it's 2005 and it doesn't hold a charge. So now we need to look at, I think, getting one for maybe the highway department, because more people ask how many people use that road, that they want to work on. So they get a lot of calls for stuff like that. So it would be beneficial for highway to have them, and then Jesse could borrow it on his busiest day.
But the one that you have one?
Yeah, we do.
Is there a possibility of replacing the battery in it?
So we're gonna look into that, but the circuit board on the top of it, is all brown, so it looks like it's shorted out, so I don't know. The cost of the thing, and so I don't even know, like, the computer software, can't even find it. If we were able to get it, would it even work on computers today, and from 2005, so I don't know if it would be cost worthy to try to replace all these parts and get new software, so. I did provide Joe with the information of the company that this one was, so I think he's gonna look into seeing how much it was.
Another lifesaver?
It's time.
Sounds good.
So if I can interject, what if you do the same thing for Jesse that you did for Tom and have him do a separate warrant article? If you're considering the part-timer.
True.
I'd go along with that.
Yeah.
The public.
Jesse's got to make his case.
As long as the firefighter comes first,
Oh,
You asked first.
You heard that, Jesse, right?
I did not.
Oh, we're kind of like assuming that you could probably put it in a warrant article, so that, the town could vote on it versus deciding on
Yeah,
it.
I heard that part.
Okay. All right, does that sound okay?
I'll do that.
Okay.
much would that save us if, you know?
2022, I think.
Yep.
If I remember correctly from the
Cents?
deal.
About that.
$1,000.
Cents.
Yes.
What, you said $22,000?
Roughly in that
That would
ballpark.
end up being-
It's come out to somewhere around there.
It's not really that big then.
It's like 5 cents on the thousand.
About 5 cents, yep.
Yeah, pennies on a dollar.
And the board would support that?
Well, if we're putting it
Yeah.
on the warrant, yes.
Okay, just making sure.
We want the authorization of the voters.
Okay.
So I just said, does that cover it?
That covers the thing that most of the people cared about.
Josie's here.
Is there anything further from the board?
I think we're all set, Jesse. Thank you.
Thank you.
You all have a good rest of your night.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you.
You too. See ya. All right, so what else can we focus on that will be productive? at
You
this
have
point?
one more department head here. I don't know if she had anything to add.
Josie,
Technically, we have 2.
wake up.
Oh, I'm
That's
just
right.
preoccupied listening to all this conversation. I understand what position the selectman's in, and because of that, I'm not going to make any criticisms of what the board's decided to do with my budget. However, I will say that I have the RSA that I spoke of last time at the last meeting here. It's section 31:8. I'll pass it around. Start with you. That's for conference dues. Essentially, the RSA just says that if you don't include it in my budget, the fees to go to the annual conference, which is looking like right now, looking at the rates from last year, right now it's roughly $800. That's for a 3-night stay. If it doesn't come out of my budget, it would just come out of the selectmen's budget. So I think it would be nice to plan for it within my budget, but if not, it's still going to come out. And this conference, it happens annually. It's a great event where clerks can come together, network. We meet all of our vendors. They go over new services or softwares that they're providing. Additionally, we also meet with state agencies. We often, in the past, no, I haven't gone to the conferences. Neither have the clerks prior to me for overnight. We have gone for one day, but what's changed is that I'm now serving on the executive board, and my presence will be required, and that's why I'm adding these fees to the budget, which technically should be covered.
And where is this conference held?
North Conway, at the Red Jacket.
I've been to the conference many times.
I know. Before I was in the office.
Where you're in the office, yep.
Yep. you
Josie,
were
which budget line item would this come out of?
Town clerk fees.
Town clerk fees.
Sounds like a
So,
mandate.
but you have $10,000 in
Yeah.
the town clerk fees budget?
That doesn't cover any of those fees. That covers vital records, administration, fees due to them, other contracts, fees due to state agencies.
So what you're saying is you're already spending that 10,000?
We're already spending the 10,000. Actually spent just a trickle over the 10,000 the last fiscal year, $55, a little over, nothing large.
And everything that's on that list is stuff we have to continue to be members of?
Yes.
by legal statutory requirement?
Yes.
Could we get a list of those?
You get a list.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's probably in your budget, Zach. It's probably in your book.
Oh, in the
You've got
justification
justifications
section?
in there, yep. It's,
Usually these almost always have just justifications for increases and not the like itemized.
they were supposed to do them for every line this year.
Well, I'll tell you, it's pretty hit and miss.
Okay.
But I will check the book. If I can find the town clerk section.
I left column E in the budget under, I have department what they requested, and then I added that, what they requested, and then I moved
In
over.
my-
So in this case, they would have
12,000.
requested 12.
Yep.
In my office, we don't make large expenditures. It's typically what's due to the state maintenance costs for having equipment and also software systems that have to be run and up to date with state agencies. We don't make special requests typically. I think our last one was for printers to be updated since ours were old and not functioning.
$41, $40, $201. There's a for example list, but it's not itemized.
It's not itemized.
Although on that list, to some points that were made before, I do wonder if we can get some sort of shared contract with Certified Computers that reduces our costs there.
Costs regarding,
Well, you've got, on your list of town clerk fees, you've got Certified Computers for contracted software and technical services. And the
Yes.
Budget Committee had recommended we look at some of
I
our IT expenses that are individualized for departments to see if there was any.
I agree.
Your budget doesn't pay for certified.
I paid actually about $1,500 last fiscal year.
I'll have
To be
look
part
at
of that
to
budget.
see why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or to be part of that contract. I think it was for a server update.
It was what?
I think it had to do with an update to the server. I'd have to ask
Oh, a
Frank about it
software update for
Software
the clerk's
update.
office?
for the clerk's office.
So she's kind of asking for the board to put $800 back in that line. Or do you think that you can find that somewhere else in your budget?
So the alternative is if it came out of the select board budget?
That's what she said, yeah.
I mean, we've always had $10,000 in that line. And it's always been spent through because of agency costs, contracts, everything that I've already said. So I could use some of that line for $841, but then I'm just cutting agencies, which I can't do.
What do we, in the executive section, 4130-201, selectmen's expense, what is that line item for? It looks like in past years we've underspent it.
What's the number, Zach? I'm sorry.
201.
201, 4130, 201.
41.
Isn't that like all their
Meetings,
picnics
plaques,
and-
name tags, it says.
What does it say?
The budget book says supplies associated with meetings, plaques, name tags, etc.
Well, kind of has meetings built right into that.
I just wonder, could we reduce that by 800 and increase hers by 800 and have a,
Especially considering actual spent 2021 is
Right.
only $1,000.
Yep, 42. Yeah, that's reasonable.
So we're taking that line down to 32.
Selectmen's expense?
Selectmen's expenses is currently 5,500.
47, if we're
Oh,
cutting
I
it
went
for
to the wrong
800.
line. I went to town report, sorry.
So we're cutting that down to 47 and raising hers too.
1,800 or whatever.
I also wanted to make a point that Ted had mentioned at the last budget meeting, looking to see if I could increase the rates or what people pay for services using our online services. That's a question that I'm waiting to be answered from Interware Development, but I think if there's a way that we could increase it to cover some postage, then we should.
Yeah. that would be
And
good.
there's also a miscellaneous fee, $5, that is applied to renewals and new registrations. In the past, that $5 fee has never been applied to specific vehicles, motorcycles, tractor
Trailers.
vehicles. There's a handful of them. I believe that was a decision of the clerks prior to me, and so because of that, I am looking to see if I can start applying that fee to other vehicles, especially motorcycles. You know, those are kind of a accessory item, as well as the transfer registrations too. So, and transfer registrations when someone buys a new vehicle and wants to apply a credit. So we may be able to apply a additional $5 fee to that. It's not gonna be a lot, not what the board is looking for, but it'll be something from my department.
Something is better than nothing.
Yep.
And no Bill Gardner this year.
Hmm?
No Bill Gardner this year.
He's retiring.
Yeah.
Dave Scanlon's replacing him, and I like Dave.
Yep. So I'll have to swear you in and when you become but you are already in the executive committee?
I am.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
She want that RSA back.
Want this back?
Okay. I have it saved to my desktop. The board can keep it.
Put it right in my budget book.
Alex, do you have anything?
No, I think we did pretty good. I mean, we sat down with Kathy and Ian, we went over our budget line by line. We cut quite a bit. And out of all the budgets, the dispatch, police, parking, SRO, I think we did pretty good. There is a little bit of an increase, but it's gonna be offset by the school reimbursing us for our SRO position, so, everything's good.
So you don't think you could find like another $1 million to cut there?
If I could, I would.
You generate some revenue in the parking area, maybe?
We're working on it. This COVID is, really killed us with the parts for the meter. Still having the rest.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, crazy.
Well, wouldn't we get more tickets if they can't like stuff a quarter or two in there? Maybe we shouldn't, get the parts in, so.
So you want to go to capital land and improvements. Joe's got improved road construction and Bartlett Road improvements, and he switched those amounts so that he could finish Bartlett Road. So he cut his road construction money and added it to Bartlett Road.
You could get rid of Bartlett Road.
Bartlett, they started it.
Kidding.
What was that? You making a joke about Bartlett?
I was waiting for Zach to say, we could get rid of 225 right there. Go on.
They both are already gonna be separate warrant articles. But I don't know if the board wanted to do anything with Bartlett, have him do it and like cut it in half, or
So, where is that? Let's,
on page 19.
20.
Oh, I have it on
Isn't
19.
there a possibility of a rural road grant?
What?
A rural road grant.
A rural road grant?
Don't know, I haven't.
Isn't there a possibility?
There's definitely, I mean, like federal funds coming down?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably why June, I don't know if June's still on or not, but, you know, that's exactly why she wants a
Yes.
bond of 200K, so. Theoretically, it might even be, you know, a no match, you know? If it's federal funds, they just want to throw it, rural towns, so. What do you think, June? No match?
Hard to say. I think, you know, most applications that I'm aware of for federal funding will want to have some, they need to have some kind of criteria that your threshold to meet, like number of residents, number of businesses, that kind of thing, you know, to show the need, or that it's some critical access route. You know, I think Bartlett Road could be a tough sell on something like that. Not to say we can't try. Rural development would probably be the best place to go. Again, they would want to see, from what I have understood of their grant programs, they would want to see some type of match. You know, again, we have to show that this is a priority and why. And having done some of the work there, you know, and again, if we get a grant, then you're federalizing the project. We have to procure an engineer. We have to do bid documents in preliminary design, environmental permitting, bid documents, hire a contractor, you know, that kind of thing. That adds a lot of time and years to the project. So if you want to get it done quickly, better just to fund it with the town's money and do whatever Joe had planned.
Okay, thank you. So, Ann, what was the story, you know, what's he doing with the funding that will, you said he
Moved
increased?
it from one pot to another.
He originally had it in improved road construction. He had the numbers switched. He had 225 in road construction, and then he had 125 in Bartlett. But he said that he felt that he could finish Bartlett Road if he moved some of the money from the road construction down to Bartlett Road.
Right, 125 was not enough to finish Bartlett Road.
No,
So he was gonna spend some of the money out of the other line to
Right.
finish it.
right,
And for more clarity and openness, it made sense to,
to switch the amounts, yeah. And it is gonna be a separate warrant article, so.
Okay. I think the big hurt got removed from Bartlett Road. I know we need to finish it, but the rocks and the humps down below there are rather, I mean, you can steer around it pretty easily. So I don't know if it, regardless, I guess it was gonna be on a warrant.
the unfortunate part is it means it's another year of effectively doing no other roads in town,
Yeah.
Right.
which is, to me, the real pain of continuing to work on Bartlett Road.
We're having a, I don't know, road survey, I forget what they call it, but survey of all the town roads, you know, Joe's having that done. To see what condition the roads are in and what would be the priorities for future. We're still waiting on the finished product.
I think June was making reference to that earlier. That's the project that Lakes Region Planning Commission's, you know, doing,
Yes,
that, the culverts.
yes.
I think all you gotta do is drive up and down Emerson Street.
True, yeah, that's very true too.
Yeah,
The engineering's done on that one. We just don't have the money to
Do it.
do it, you know.
How much is it gonna cost?
I was trying to remember what Joe said last time, but it wasn't cheap.
Wow.
More than we've allocated here.
Okay, well, then it doesn't help us a lot.
Did you change the fire engine too?
we didn't change the fire engine yet. So the fire engine is at a 3-year lease right now for $255,963. If you go to a 5-year lease, it's $157,000.
Last
You
time,
could get a smaller fire engine?
That's one of the smallest in the industry.
I was trying to find the sheet. Last time you provided a list of sort of the replacement dates, anticipated replacement. Oh, here, actually, I have it. For your other engine. So this is engine 3 that we're talking about?
Engine 4 comes up in 2 or 3 years.
That's what I was gonna ask. So,
Fortunately, that, correct me if I'm wrong, that capital reserve money that we have will remain
Yes,
for that.
yes.
Would we have to change the purpose though at town meeting of the capital reserve?
Yeah, I'd have to look to see how it's, what it's called, Tom.
Yeah, I don't remember what it's
To
called.
engine 4.
so that money gets reallocated to engine 4 and is ready to go
Yeah.
in 3 years or whatever it is.
Right, so both of those accounts, there's one for engine 3 and one for engine 4, would be for engine 4.
We wouldn't, I'm sorry, Tommy, we wouldn't want to do that this year until we know for sure that your engine got approved.
Good point.
So
So
we do that next year.
we could do it next year, yeah.
Yeah, especially if you're gonna do a 5-year lease.
Is, how bad is engine 4? Is it possible to wait until the lease is done, or is that not viable? It's got it, 3 years is kind of the
It's
max.
actually older, it's just, it's not the frontline piece, so we're able to take it a few years beyond engine 3.
Is there any opportunity to rotate engine 3 into engine 4's position, or are those trucks configured very differently?
Engine 3, for instance?
The old, rotate old engine 3 into engine 4s, or replace engine 4 with your new request and extend
The way
3
it's set
out.
up, the engine 4 is a tanker, so that 2,500 gallons of water on wheels is what we need
Okay,
as the second piece.
yep, I got you.
Unlike the ambulances, we do that. We do swap them out weekly.
Engine 3 has 1,000 gallons,
1,000 gallons of water.
is that right? 15?
Engine 3 is 1,000 gallons of water with a 1,500.
Engine 4 is 2,500 gallons.
And then T1,
I'm sorry?
T1?
Tower 1?
That tower,
Oh, that's the tower, it doesn't have any water on it.
It does. It's got a pump and a small amount of water.
300 gallons or something
Gotcha.
like that.
When I saw T1, I thought maybe it was tanker 1, but tower 1 makes more sense.
Tower.
So does that make sense to go from a 3-year to a 5-year? I know we wanted to pay it off quicker, but we didn't know the budget was gonna take a turn like it did.
It makes sense to me.
What's the change?
Changing, the
No,
three,
what's the
What's
difference?
the difference
Oh,
in what we're
it's-
actually paying out?
157,641 is the 5-year lease, so 255 minus 157,
So is that about
100,000?
100?
it's almost 100,000.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, it was
that's
90,
20 cents.
that's right, I did write that down, it's 90-something thousand.
With today's interest rates, I think it's pretty good.
Agreed.
Yes, go,
Yep.
yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good to
So
me.
the question I have is, this had a time limit on to respond to it, to keep those rates?
Are you asking, does it?
No, it did.
Okay.
It had a time frame on it to respond to them. And I don't see it on this one. They gave it to us on the other one.
Yeah, what is it, usually like 20 days or something?
Oh, quote valid for 14 days.
Yeah.
So can you lock them in?
We might be able to get a better rate locally as well.
Well, that's true, too.
Yeah, 2 of those quotes were the same, although they were different manufacturers, they got their quote from the same.
Yeah, but the other manufacturer was more money than this one.
Who's the manufacturer on that truck?
There's E1 and Pierce that we're looking at. The 2 of the companies dealt with the same finance company, so the quote
Oh,
was
yeah.
exactly the same.
Gotcha.
Is
That's a good-
American
that's a
LaFrance
different
still in
one.
business?
They went out of business and actually got bought out by the parent company of E1, so no one could ever produce another American LaFrance under that name.
So are they using the same facilities?
No,
No?
no. The ones,
Ocala, Florida.
Ocala, Florida, and Buffalo, New York, is another facility,
Oh.
different manufacturer of material.
Okay,
Okay.
so have you been doing like a floating, what's the bottom line now?
No. No.
What do you want to do with the, is there anything else in capital that you wanted to change at all?
Nothing that jumped out.
The only question really would be around that, the Main Street line, June's Main Street line item, right?
Capital reserves.
The 200,000 for capital reserve for grants?
Yep. I mean, on paper, it says it's for the Main Street project, but that's not actually true, right?
It says Highland Main Street
Pages you
Infrastructure
don't-
Grant Match.
Even if you took it down to, instead of
50?
to 0, to 25,000.
Yeah,
gonna
21
give you
is,
Something.
19.
Yeah.
Take it down to what, 20, or
If
25,
you're saying 50,
50?
She said 25, I said 50.
But we're not getting a lot of money on, not a lot of interest on that money if it's sitting in the bank anyway.
right? But we may have a potential to get more grants if we know we have the offset sitting there.
That's true.
I don't know,
I would go with 50.
50?
I think so.
So you reduced that 200
Yeah.
Big savings, yeah.
down to 50?
Versus blowing it out completely.
That's 150,000.
Yeah, 50 might not cut it, especially if we have an opportunity that, it's like a 20% match and a couple million or something like that, but,
Is that number entered into the spreadsheet wrong?
What
'Cause
number?
it appears as an addition of 100 and not a subtraction of 100.
well,
Well, yeah, it was
Yeah, it is,
100.
it's an addition of 100.
Last year was 100
yeah, okay.
But, oh, because last year was 100,
Yep.
for Highland
We
Street.
doubled it.
so the request was 200 and our budget was 200, but we're gonna drop it all the way to 50.
Right?
Right.
Gotcha.
So then you'll have a green number there, savings of 50,000 from the last budget.
June sounded like you wanted to say something.
Do you want to?
I guess it's a little hard to know, again, the number there. A $300,000 infrastructure project would, at 20% match, would require 60,000 in match. So we just don't know what project we would be going for and doing. So, I'm okay with you just removing this until we have, I guess, a better sense because I don't, it's gonna be tough. I respect that for the town, but I also not entirely certain where to spend this. But I also think you guys should recognize, I think when you get this road surface management study, it's gonna be difficult to accept in a way. I'm just guessing that you're gonna see, big numbers there because the infrastructure hasn't had investment in a long time. So we're kind of at a tipping point is the way I look at it. Like, you could either wait another year to better understand, really determine how to start funding a lot of things, or, put something in there now and hope for the best that maybe a year from now we'll be writing a grant and we can use that for. The other place I did look to is there's 20,000 it looked like in that cap, for the CIP. We could probably take that out and see what we can do in-house and, have a good start to that. I think with Ann's and Kathy's help and ours and, we can start to build that at least and hopefully have something together, at least to work with the other planning too, so.
I appreciate that, June, but I think it's already out.
No, it's in the capital outlay.
Yep.
Yeah, I still see it there, but
Page 20.
well, I'm looking at 22, what's the 20 grand
It was
there?
out and then I saw it back in, so.
Yeah, it's on page 20.
Oh, okay.
What number is it?
34 in the top section.
I think writing this capital improvement plan in-house, we've been trying to do this, June, for a long time. It really, This is a plan that you're gonna be using for 10 years, for $20,000. That's not huge money for what we need it to do. I think taking that out would be,
I think the narrative on paying for
Detrimental.
that plan this year is pretty clear, right? We've removed all of our capital reserve
Yeah.
transfers, and we've said, instead of doing that when we know that inflation is high, instead we're gonna do a plan, and we're gonna
Right.
come back to the town in a year, and we're gonna explain what that plan's gonna cost. And
right.
to me, that makes a lot of sense right now.
Yeah, that makes more
And
sense.
doing it in-house, though, is not,
You're never gonna get it done.
no.
I think we could get a lot done, but I think this, having the money there will assure us that it will get done.
Right. Yes, I don't think taking that out would be wise.
I think that's more of an investment to not spend money in the future that is foolish.
Yeah, I mean, definitely that plan's gonna come back and tell us we have to spend a lot of money.
Yes, we know that.
We know that. We knew the wage study was gonna say the same thing.
We just need to know what the plan's gonna come back and tell us to spend the money on.
Exactly.
Following that logic there, June, or? So you're all set?
Say that
with the-
again?
Well, I'll leave the 20 there for assurance that we actually go forward with a plan.
But I think we can try to use that 20 for really helping with the analysis. You know, there's a lot that we, hopefully we can have a few volunteers in the community, and we certainly need department heads to rally around and help fill out a lot of kind of inventorying of capital items, and then, you know, things that they've got that already, but we just pulling it together in a little different format, and then doing some analysis of over the next 10 years or so, setting priorities, that kind of thing, and figuring out how to, you know, have the same amount going every year into sort of capital improvements would be good, so.
Okay. I think June still talked it down, though. That's
I
it.
know, don't do that. Now, you have taken out everyone else's capital reserve fund, with the exception of the Conservation Commission.
Which we told them we'd leave it in there.
I know, but they don't have a plan right now for it. You've made everybody else make cuts in their budgets,
I voted against
Huge.
it last time.
significant cuts. They're sitting here fighting for personnel.
$5,000. That's a drop of water in a large bucket. Plus, they will come after the land use change tax if we don't.
Let them, okay.
What do you think, Neil?
Well, I'm torn. It's a small amount of money. I was hoping that it would make the Conservation Commission feel encouraged that we're behind them.
Yeah.
They, you know,
If we take it now, they're just gonna come after the whole kit and caboodle.
well, do you think they're gonna go to the voters at town meeting?
There's one surefire way to make sure.
Yeah,
Take away the 5 that we've already.
yeah, I
committed
think
to.
we ought to leave it.
Yeah, taking away the 5 was just motivated them to go to the town meeting, but, did Lisa speak with you?
I've not heard from her.
We did move that other 5 into their general operating budget.
Yeah. All right, so at least that 5 was saved.
Yep.
I know that, you know, having attended many of their meetings there, they scrutinize every penny that they spend. And they do a lot of volunteer work.
But my point is, we've taken it away from every other department.
The only time we've left it is if there's been, you know, capital
Right.
backing it up for some other reason.
I mean, the fire department, for example, they asked for $5,000 for certain things, $7,600 for something else. Another 5,000. You've wiped them clean.
Yeah, well, I guess we have to be fair, don't we?
Well, that's what I was thinking, but I know it's only 5,000 and it is the board's choice, and your town manager is saying leave it, so.
This
that's not bad.
particular year, we're really in a bind. You know, I always stick up for the Conservation Commission, but we do have to be fair. We're asking everybody to take a hit.
So it seems
So
like,
I guess, you know, if we could, like, hold it back another year, you know, I'd go along with it.
okay.
Okay.
It does feel, and I voted against it last time, but it does feel like a bit of a bait and switch to have had Lisa on this call last time, giving us her perspective. She's not here this time. And now, you know, we voted last time for her to keep it, and now with her not present, we're
Because
just
we
gonna cut
did
it.
take it out in the prior budget, and after speaking with her, the board voted to put it back in.
Voted to put it back in.
Yes.
So I mean, to me, it feels a little disingenuous to have another vote on that same line item where she's not here to speak her piece. And I say that as the only person who voted against it last time.
Well, I'll go along with you,
No, you've got a good point.
yeah.
Looks like we're voting again to keep it in there.
We're gonna leave it, okay?
Yeah. You're right. It would come out bad.
Well, it's our
I don't
town,
love the optics.
it's our
of it.
town brand. It is.
Our town brand.
It
Take
is.
multiple votes
Multiple
on it.
votes. Boy, I don't like that.
All right, so where do we go from here?
We'll plug in, there's not many changes as far as numbers
No,
go, so
right.
we'll plug those in. And I'll get you a new budget tomorrow. Public hearings next Monday.
What about your nonprofits?
Oh, yeah.
I just want to comment that I remember when the only ambulance in town belonged to the undertaker. And
Business was
police
good.
chief- the police chief drove his own car. And he had a little blue light on top. And
There you go.
more than half of the roads in town were dirt.
Yeah, so I hear you advocating to go back to dirt road.
That was my pitch on Bartlett.
He was a
Well, that
Keystone
could fix the
cop.
pavement problem.
Was that your relative too?
Yeah.
Page 16 is your nonprofits.
I have the old town grader that they bought it new in 1931. It was a galleon.
You
and
have
it
a
was
1931 grader?
Yeah, it was horse-drawn. And we can pull it in the next parade.
Great, great.
Grade Main Street, it'll all be dug up.
Yeah,
Didn't we print the same thing as you did?
John Kenniston was the town
I wonder if we're looking
engineer.
at the same numbers, Kathy.
Oh,
Remember him?
yeah, we are.
What do you want
You
to
said page 16?
He was a band director, too.
That is,
Oh, it's kind of,
Oh, yeah, I did cut that out.
50, it
grand.
starts on 15.
do you want to tell them?
What page we on?
16. I'm
Intergovernment welfare payments.
gonna look at nonprofits.
Oh, okay, that's, all right, I was looking at the other.
So the nonprofits start under health agencies. The first one's Pemmy Baker Community Health, which is under Mid-State Health now. So we did zero that number out.
What line?
It's the first line on the
Yeah.
page.
Oh, the top?
441501.
Shall we get the, just, include the discussion from the nonprofit committee, or singular? You two were both on the
They
nonprofits.
both
okay.
are, yes.
Yep.
We, basically looked at the need, I think if you look at the numbers, draw money nationally or statewide. And so you see the Red Cross was cut because they have a much bigger umbrella that they can go raise money in. And so basically, we froze Katie because they're pretty aggressive on their fundraising. And so I think the transportation group and also Penny Baker Home Health, the hospice service, and those were the ones that may have gotten a little bit more. But we tried to level fund it because of the tax rate and tried to be as fair as possible.
Thanks, Mark. And you indicated, kind of Kathy and Ann, it's a level fund, with the exception of Penny Baker. And you're gonna have a conversation with Kathy as well, right?
Yes. So Ann did speak with Kathy Bentwood. And Kathy told her that the Bridge House serves 10 times more Plymouth residents than any other town, and Plymouth is their #1 priority. Also, she was told by past administration that the Bridge House saves the town around $80,000 a year by housing our welfare officer at the Bridge House and taking care of many of the needs that might come as an additional expense to the town. So the Bridge House does do a lot for us, and they do keep our welfare officer up there. They provide her with an office.
True.
She runs a really tight ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that she's not going to approach other towns that ask for increases as well. I think it's pretty much every other town's like $2,000.
Yeah, she
And
said they serve Plymouth 10 times more than other towns.
And she appreciates the $10,000.
So we did tell her that it was cut from 13 down to 10, and she said she does appreciate the 10, so.
It looks like some of the other nonprofit cuts we have were in the January 10th budget, but are missing from this.
What other cuts?
So Transport Central, we talked about taking them
To 1,000.
to 1,000.
1,000, okay.
We talked about
Thanks,
So
Zach.
Red Cross was 2,000.
Red Cross down to 2,000,
Yep.
and CASA, case, I don't know how, court-appointed child advocacy, down to 1,000.
Okay.
Trying to see if there was any others. I think we also reduced voices to 4,000. Tri-county community to 7646. Yeah.
Okay.
Not a lot of money there, but a few that were missed.
Have you heard back from Penny or Midstate as far as, or have you discussed with them that we're not going to fund them?
I haven't discussed that
Okay.
with them. I just made sure that they were that they took over Penny Baker.
Yep. Okey-doke. All right.
They've got it on their webpage.
Yeah. All right. So we're all set with the reductions that we just discussed?
Sounds like it.
Yep.
Yep.
Okey-doke. So,
What? Can't hear you. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we do have a non-public listed for June to speak.
okay, so we're done with the regular business. Any public input?
Thank you all, thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Going for real test tomorrow.
All right, so,
We'll have some in the morning.
does someone make the motion?
I'll make a motion to go into non-public with, RSA, whatever it says on the agenda.
91A, colon 3, Roman numeral
colon-
2, C, reputation.
Yeah,
Of
reputation.
course, you get to me.
Second.
Okay. Did you get that, Ann?
Yep.
All right. Ted, you vote. Bill, aye. Neil?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
Okay. Zach, no discussion on a motion. So, Ted, your vote.
Aye.
Neil?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
Bill, aye. And before we go out of this meeting, so we gotta do the town report, right? And I started it, I didn't get very far. What I'll do is I'll send it out. What I
Selectmen's
did.
report in the journal.
When is it due to be completed?
Like the 21st or something like that, right?
By the end of the month. Yeah, the
well,
20
So, yeah, if we can,
The
button it up
19th,
basically this
That's
week.
right.
Yeah.
by the end
And
of the month.
you may not, if you choose to be wordy, that's great. If not, if you just have an idea like, oh yeah, we should mention this, and just give me a chance perhaps to like, add some verbiage, and then once we've nailed down all input, I'll send it out
So
again.
we're gonna have another meeting? We're gonna do it on email?
Well, theoretically, I could post it to some drive and have people access it, but.
So maybe they could have some information to you for Monday night?
Yep.
And then you could go from there. It'll give you a few days to work on it.
Hey, so we're still on, in a meeting. It kills me that we're paying now 2 1/4 or whatever, when we almost, with the changes that we made tonight, could have gotten it down to 0 if we only had the revenue and expenditures down pat. So is everyone kind of happy with just going forward with maybe $2, or should we discuss in a special meeting how to proceed to get it down? But we individually, we probably can't say, oh yeah, I think fire ought to like cut out a truck or something like that, or
We made some big cuts tonight.
big-ish, but it's not really big.
I don't know.
But $1.50 of that is coming from the fund balance transfer that we did to reduce taxes in the last cycle. So in terms of increased budget, we would be going backwards. I mean, we may have another 50 cents or so that we could scrounge, but after that, we're cutting pretty deep. And that 50 cents is probably all explainable, not all, but a lot of it's probably explainable through raises.
All right, so we're going to.
I mean, I don't love it, don't get me wrong, but
None of us do. I don't love it either, but, I mean, we haven't had any infrastructure updates or, or good help, because we couldn't afford to pay them.
I mean, and we're making it worse because we're not saving any money this time. It's not like we chose not to save money this time and as a result had 1 year of a nice reduced tax bill. It's tough.
What about an update next year? Value.
Yeah, so, yeah, we're gonna reassess everything? But that, I mean, it's just,
We're
that's a
just
marketing tool, like,
Chasing nothing.
hey, your tax rate went down, because your value is now twice as much as it used to be.
You're paying the same amount or more.
Yeah, well, that's, I mean,
Or
But that's
That
what
was the
they're
argument.
paying today for properties, Bill.
People are afraid their assessments are gonna go up.
Well, they're paying, what?
Because somebody bought that
They're
house
half again,
next
they're
door
paying-
for
They're
$1
paying
million.
like twice as much as the assessed value
They're
in a lot of
scared.
them.
And
That's what my landlord told me, that he could sell my condo for twice the value that it's assessed at. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That place isn't worth $200,000.
You probably
you
could.
probably could.
He
I mean,
probably could, 'cause
my assessed value on my house, I think it's almost 2x what like Zillow
Yeah,
says I should
yeah.
put it on the
You
market
never
for.
find another place to
No,
live.
no, you wouldn't. That's what I said. You could sell it for that big bucks, but you're not gonna find another
Have to
place to
get a
go
camper.
to.
so if we do a reval on all the houses, I mean,
just an
we're,
update. An update, I wasn't saying a full revow, just an update.
Isn't it one-third, one-third,
It's a
one-third?
quarter,
Quarter, one quarter.
yeah. And then in the 5th year, they do a townwide reval, and I think she's only in her 2nd year right now. She's starting her 2nd year.
Third,
I
maybe?
think she might be on the 3rd.
But again, it may look good on paper. We can actually tout it as like, we're saving you thousands of bucks because your tax rate went way down. But in reality, everyone's gonna be paying a lot more. And you got people on fixed income that have no way out.
They're getting crushed.
Yeah, they can't pay like $1 million for a house in like Bridgewater. You know, they'll just tough it out and, you know, like put deep cuts on their livelihood. I mean, it's just, you know, it's no good way out of it.
I mean, the only way out is to reduce staffing and reduce services.
Yeah.
Nothing else is gonna make a dent at this point.
Because it's your employees that are your biggest cost.
And we don't get to escape the infrastructure.
I think the voters have to decide those things.
But there are things that we need to put in place. We need to make sure that we are right-sized in all of our areas. We need to be measuring these things. I know this is like a soapbox that I stand on, but we have no idea today. If we took the town of Plymouth Police Department and, like it or not, added in the PSU Police Department, because they are police officers in the town of Plymouth that are supporting the town of Plymouth. And every time I hear about, you know, we always count the numbers of the students as being residents because that's what the census says, and that's why we're staffed at this level. But when we're looking at saying, is the police department right size? Well, then we're not looking and counting the PSU police force because that's inconvenient for us.
Mhm.
Well, first of all, we lost 600 people because students didn't register to vote with their address in Plymouth. So that changed the whole thing around. And also, too,
Yeah, our population size went down.
the PSU police force is like
They're dwindling.
decimated.
Yeah.
Yeah, but regardless,
Right.
if we want to be making the argument that it's the right size, we should be able to say, okay, statistics say that you should have one police officer for every N residents, whatever N happens to be. I don't care what it is. Doesn't matter. One police officer equates to this number of residents. How many police officers do we have relative? And, you know, there's going to be some variance in there. That's fine.
Mhm.
But what we're looking for is, I'm just going to throw out some spitball numbers. It says that we should have 10 police officers in the town of Plymouth. Well, if we have 11, well, whatever. But if we have 15 and it's saying that we should have 10, hey, that's something we should look at. If it's saying that we should have this many let's say 10 fire personnel, and we wind up that we only have 5, well, that's telling us something where we need to allocate our resources. We have nothing that's doing that today. It's all
It's all
off the
gut
hip,
feeling. Yeah.
and it's all based on feelings. It's like, yeah, we don't need to match a number exactly. We need it for guidance so that the select board has something to stand on when someone's asking, hey, we think we need another person at the recycling facility. Well, okay, what are those numbers equate out to today?
Right.
Are we within where we're supposed to be, within a reasonable margin of error? Yes, well, then we need to you need to work on efficiencies here because we can't deviate too much from this norm.
Mhm.
But we're not doing any of that. We're not doing anything to collect the data to support arguments. And if it's all on feeling all the time, guess what's going to happen all the time? The
Bigger,
budget's
bigger,
just going to keep getting bigger and bigger, and we'll have anybody who says no is basically hanging themselves out to dry. And that's a terrible place for a decision-making body to be in. We need that data. I'll make a motion that we charge Kathy to start collecting this data so that we can start making intelligent decisions.
Second.
Any discussion? Yeah. So, we'll get to a vote, but, I'm thinking of like Jesse tonight. Now, Kathy and Ann, I know you've worked with him in the past, and hopefully Kathy can stay on top of him, but, like his arguments, well, we've been doing this for 30 years. Well, yeah, but, next year, you can tell the populace, like, hey, would you rather have like a Thursday morning at 8 o'clock to throw your trash in there? Or you want to pay an extra, 20 cents, 1,000 on your tax bill? So, I mean, it just seems kind of like a dumbass argument on his part. He just doesn't get it, on hardly anything.
He doesn't have control of statistics
We are in
of his
public
own operation.
session, just a reminder.
What's that?
We are in public, just,
Yeah, we're in
Yeah,
public,
it's
yeah.
fine.
just so everybody knows.
As I've said before, we've never, not we, but the
Collectively, the
departments have
body
never
has
been
not asked for this.
I'm sorry?
The board hasn't asked for this data in the past, right?
No, they've never,
Well, whether or not the
so
board
that's
has,
why I think that you don't have that.
Yeah.
whether or not the board has asked for it in the past means that they probably weren't doing their job. Or somebody wasn't. It doesn't mean that we should not do our job today.
And
And honestly, I thought we got a good start in some ways with Jesse tonight.
that-
Because the sheet that he gave us, that's got
Shows
17,
the-
18, 19, 20, like, that was a good document, right? More of that kind of stuff it's very helpful.
I don't want to be spending time in long meetings asking for stuff that should honestly have been given to us.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
One abstention because she's not here.
no, it didn't count.
All right, anything further to discuss?
In terms of that CIP plan, which I'm gonna keep harping on as well, what do we have to, because the statute says, as June shared it, it's a charge of the planning board.
Yep.
How do we charge the planning board to prioritize that work? Or what's the relation?
I don't think you need to probably do too much. Well, you're the rep on the board, but, I mean, this is the thing that June wants to go forward with. I'm sure Rebecca is in the same, boat, and Phil. I think everyone's gonna be like very supportive, and, so I don't think that's gonna be an issue, with the exception of maybe like one, person. Actually, I don't see even.
No, I don't think anybody will oppose. I just want to make sure that we're doing it correctly so that in 6 months, we're not still talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that the money that we've allocated won't be available to July, so 6 months is legit, but there's stuff we can start doing before,
We can collect the
June
data.
is- we can collect the data. We can go to every department and we can get, and maybe this is another item to charge Kathy with in advance of planning, or, and then it doesn't have to be you, but it could be, you're meeting with the department heads, say, hey, we've got this capital improvement project coming. As part of that, we're gonna need an inventory of all
Your stuff.
all your capital items that are, more than, I don't know, $10,000 replacement price?
Usually capital is like, isn't it 5?
Is it
We
5?
use 5, yep.
Okay, yeah, whatever that item is, but,
Anything's got a value of over 5, how long does it last?
if the department heads could pull that together, that sure would give the CIP subcommittee a real running start when they get rolling.
And Kathy, you're meeting with department heads tomorrow?
Yes.
And June seemed to think that she could do this without the $2,000 or whatever it was, but,
It's 20 grand.
20 grand, yeah. Oh, I'm talked it down to 2, but.
Well, I mean, if we can, if she can get a running start because all the data's there, it's pretty easy to build at least something rudimentary. I've
Yeah,
got
first
this
draft
thing-
model anyway, yeah.
I've got this thing, it costs this much, and it's good for this many years, and you just start laying them all out. It's not
I
hard.
think June pointed out too, that you need to normalize the data too, because
Yeah.
everyone does everything differently apparently, so.
Yeah.
There should be some forms, I'm sure that June can get for us that could go out to the departments, saying, here's a form, same form, everybody uses the same form.
Why don't I just send them the Excel spreadsheet I started for the capital items?
I think
I
there's
listed-
more than just the equipment, though, I think.
We can
Well,
start
there's
with the equipment.
roads. There's
Yeah,
a-
we can
and-
start with the equipment though, because equipment is something that's tangible, it's readily available to them, and we can do it now.
Right. And most of those department heads, I mean, I'm sure there's edge cases, but the big ticket items, I bet they can rattle that off without even
Oh,
having
yeah.
to think much about it.
Yeah, and so why not get a running start at, and let's face it, the equipment is the stuff that we get in front of us all the time.
Mhm.
Wouldn't it be nice if we had one grand unified sheet
Right.
that says, here's all the equipment, this is when it's gonna be replaced in, and this is how much money we need to spend every single year just to deal with the equipment.
Right. It makes me think of that question, Neil. Every single time a plow comes up, Neil says, how long have you had that plow? When did you replace it last? There's a series of questions. If we could just be like,
And it would be so nice for
no problem,
us
plow
to
failed,
know
it's 10
that
years
we-
old, we were gonna replace it next year, cool.
Yeah, it's just instead of a discussion, it's like, okay, here, it lasted longer than it's supposed to, no problem, here you go.
Right, we're in year 13 on a 10-year plan. Great job.
A fleet
Get a new one.
management plan.
Like I said, the
Yeah.
equipment is something that hits us all the time. We spend so much time talking about it, I just
It's not
like to stop.
rocket science.
Yeah, people have done this before. Now, when it comes to buildings and some of the other things, those are more complex.
Yeah. But honestly, having a list of, how old is the roof on this building? When do we anticipate needing to replace it? How old's the roof on the police station? When do we anticipate
That
needing
could be
to?
phase two.
Right.
The equipment is just like,
Equipment, phase
So
one,
easy.
and get to buildings, and, we're gonna get culverts and roads out of this other project. If we start to bring all that stuff together and maintain it, boy, I think we're in a whole lot better position.
Dave Jeffers said he had to refigure it. It's going back to be refigured because it was just so friggin' high,
Oh, yeah.
so.
We told him to look at around 200,000 per year. And he's like,
That's gonna be 50 years.
More like
That's what pretty much what he was thinking, I think.
we'll come around and meet you again.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be here in 50 years.
No?
Probably not.
You love Plymouth, come on.
Well, if I'm here, I'll probably be,
Here?
below ground instead of above.
Sounds good.
You want to be buried in the basement? It's a
Sure.
weird request, Ted, but if you want me to make a motion.
No, I'm gonna just leave my ashes here,
Are you the ex officio for the planning
Yes.
board?
Yes. I will
Okay.
bring this to them in our next meeting. I'll actually send Rebecca a note right now.
Okay.
So officially, we're charging Kathy with doing that.
With giving the department heads a request to start helping with that inventory in advance of that project kicking off.
And when do we want her to report back to us on that?
It may be a while, but it would be nice to have like a preliminary report.
How about it's included on her bi-weekly department report? She's
Okay.
gonna, she's meeting with all her department heads
Once a month,
once every 2 weeks.
once a month.
Okay, so.
They don't want to meet any more than.
So
once
it'll be a
month.
monthly report. It'll be
Yep.
the first select board meeting of every month. There'll be a line, just a topic, it's like where we are with the capital inventory, capital equipment inventory, at least to start.
Okay.
There should be some nice low-hanging fruit. People could
Yep.
sign. Or not.
right. Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.